Okay, I think we can get started. Thank you everybody for joining. Thank you so much for being interested in the Regional Climate Collaboratives Program, Round 2. We're thrilled today to present and talk to you about our pre-proposal application process for the second round of our program. My name is Blanca Escobedo, my pronouns are she, hers, and I'm calling from the unceded ancestral lands of the Wapo and Coast Mi'kmaq people, also known as Santa Rosa, and I'm a program analyst for the CASE team. I am also here with my two colleagues who are going to be presenting with the workshop with me, Ina and Sarah. Would you like to introduce yourselves?
Sure. I fortunately have laryngitis, so I'm just going to put it in the chat, and I'll be responding to questions in the chat today. But thanks all for joining.
And I'm Sarah Risher. I am also program analyst on this team. I am joining from Yolo County, which is the unceded ancestral lands of the Patwin people and home to the Yochitihi Winton Nation tribe. Thank you so much for being here today. I'm really excited to get into your questions later.
Thank you, Ina and Sarah. And now we can also begin, but we'd love for you all to introduce yourselves in the chat as well. Please include your name, your organization, or the region that you're working within if you would like. And you can also feel free to post any questions or comments in the chat box at any time during our presentation, and we'll do our best to answer them via the chat or also at the Q&A portion at the end of the webinar. Next slide, please. So today our agenda will be to go over the program overview, talk about the application process and its components, the technical assistance and application resources available, and also the threshold and scoring criteria. And we'll have a significant Q&A portion toward the end for you all to ask questions and have a discussion. Next slide, please. So now we're going to have a high-level overview of the RCC program. First of all, the Regional Climate Collaboratives is a grant program meant to build capacity, aimed to support cross-sectoral partners and to come together, develop processes, plans, and projects to sustain climate action. The goal of the program is to help under-resourced communities across the state access fundings to advance place-based and regional climate change mitigation, adaptation, and resiliency efforts. The program also aims to both fund emerging and established collaboratives across the state. And due to the historic levels of funding coming down from the federal and state level for climate change projects, RCC is a really good opportunity and timely opportunity for those under-resourced communities to take advantage of those dollars coming downstream. Next slide, please. So the Regional Climate Collaboratives program has 4 program objectives, and those should be central to the goals, priorities, and activities of the proposed collaboratives that are going to be funded through the program. So number 1 is to develop actionable plans and projects, to build social infrastructure, to center community engagement and decision-making, and also develop equity-centered processes. Next slide, please. So there are various eligible applicants that can be in a collaborative and submit an application. Eligible applicants include California Native American tribes, community-based organizations and nonprofits, small businesses, local public agencies, and other organizations that have a history of providing community-based outreach and technical assistance. With the collaborative partnership structure, eligible applicants are going to need to form the structure, and they're going to collectively submit only one application based on a shared vision. So each collaborative is going to select a managing partner that's going to lead and demonstrate the organizational capacity for the collaborative and how they're able to complete grants and projects and the financial capacity to receive and be accountable for the grant dollars. So for the full proposal applications, applicants are going to submit a draft partnership agreement. So that means it doesn't have to be signed. And that partnership agreement will describe the governance and organization of the collaborative partnership structure. That's something that has changed from round 1 to round 2 is now that has to be, it doesn't have to be signed. So hopefully that gives applicants a little bit more flexibility. Next slide, please. So how can RCC activities build capacity? So they're designed to strengthen local coordination, leadership, knowledge, skills, expertise, and access to resources in under-resourced communities, with the goal of ultimately helping to develop or increase the ability of that community to independently compete for grants and also implement projects in the future. So there's a variety of eligible activity types under the program. There's required activity types, which are build relationships, identify priorities, develop plans, projects, and policies, and serve as a local TA hub. Also participate in evaluation and peer learning activities. There are also optional activities such as data collection and analysis and education and training. So these activities, you can learn more about them on our guidelines, but it's important to get familiar with them when submitting a proposal. Next slide, please. So now we're going to dive in a little bit more on the application process and its components. So we can go to the next slide. Thank you. So for round 2, we now have 2 different funding tracks for small and large grants. The small grant has a minimum award amount of $500,000 up to $999,999. And then the large funding track, which goes from $1 million up to $1.75 million. So the purpose for these tracks is so that applicants with similar award amounts can compete within the same pool of funding and ensure that we have more diverse and collaboratives in terms of scale and scope. We'll ultimately recommend awards to the 2 highest scoring applicants from each track, and then we'll have additional funds that will be awarded to the next highest scoring applications located in counties that have not yet received an RCC award in either round 1 or round 2, regardless of award size. Next slide, please. So this is our remaining timeline for round 2. Our NOFA and our pre-proposal was just released last week. You can find the NOFA on our resources page. And now, starting this week, we actually started weekly office hours that will run until September 6th on Wednesdays from 1 to 2. And we're also going to be continuing with our workshop series in the next 2 weeks. We'll have more information about those in upcoming slides, though. And with the pre-proposal due on September 6th and a full proposal due on December 6th. After the pre-proposal, and SGC staff is going to provide feedback, and then after the full proposal, we're going to provide scores, and we'll invite the top scoring candidates in the full proposal for a final interview in January 2024, so that we can ultimately recommend awards to the council on February 2024 during their February council meeting. Next slide, please. Something new to this program, or to the round 2 program, is now the applications will be submitted through a platform called Submittable. You can access the direct application link through our website or in the link in the chat. There you can make a free account and save your application as you go until you're ready to submit. So you can always come back to it before the application deadline. So if you submit your application before September 6th, and you'd like to make a change to your proposal, you can always send us an email and we can reopen the application as long as it's before September 6th, so we can make a modification. We'll also have more information on the pre-proposal required components in an upcoming slide, but please know that within Submittable, you will be able to directly respond to any project details, the narrative questions, fill out your draft budget, and upload your work plan and project area map. Next slide, please. So for the project area requirements, RCC maintains both a regional and place-based component for the project to be eligible. So we've made modifications based on from round 1 to round 2. So there was a change to the definition of region, and that is to increase flexibility for applicants to define their own region. So applicants can now determine their own region based on shared natural, political, and built environmental systems, climate risks, and or other shared challenges and dynamics. So however, the applicant determines the regional boundary, the region should be continuous. However, we will not be funding statewide collaboratives. Next slide, please. So for the communities of focus project area requirements, we have some requirements, and the purpose for the communities of focus is to focus more on the local place-based work. The census tracts representing the communities in the neighborhoods where the collaborative would conduct its place-based work are something that you're going to have to illustrate. And then the community of focus could be a single census tract, or it could also be a cluster of census tracts. And the collaboratives minimum must have 2 communities of focus for their whole project area. addition, in order to be eligible, the collaborative should show that 75% of their communities of focus should meet SB 1072's definition of under-resourced, or 75% of the communities of focus must meet SB 1072's definition of under-resourced, or be tribal lands, as long as 50% of the communities of focus meet SB 1072's definition of under-resourced. Next slide, please. So new to this round is the availability of an RCC mapping tool. This online tool will make it easier for applicants to identify and illustrate their proposed region and communities of focus by having a one-stop shop where they can determine their eligibility, create their map, and take a screenshot to upload on Submittable. The tool will have layers for applicants to choose from to determine their region. However, none of them are required. Applicants can draw their regions as they wish. Applicants can also access detailed instructions document and a video tutorial soon on our website. And SGC staff and our TA providers are happy to help and troubleshoot applicants when using the mapping tool. But hopefully it should be a more streamlined option for this round. And I would also like to highlight our colleague Marky Price for creating this tool over the last couple of months. And the RCC mapping tool was just linked in our chat, but you can also access it on our website. Next slide, please. So to talk a little bit more about the pre-proposal, the purpose of having a required pre-proposal is so that we can assess whether applicants themselves can see whether they're on track to complete and submit a full competitive application by the end of the application period. Like I mentioned earlier, on Submittable, you'll be able to respond to the narrative questions, the project partner information, upload your draft work plan, your budget, and your project area map. And all of these components are required. However, they will not be scored, and you won't be beholden to any of the pre-proposal information in the full proposal. We'll provide qualitative feedback in September after the deadline of the pre-proposal so that we can help applicants refine any application components to best align with the program goals and objectives. Next slide, please. So with the full proposal, we will make materials available on September 7th, 2023, after the pre-proposal deadline. And the full proposals should meet all of the eligibility requirements upon submission. We'll also be reviewing this within SGC internal staff in an interagency panel, and we'll invite top scoring applicants to a finalist interview in January. The components for this are similar to the pre-proposal, just with more detail. However, we're going to require narrative responses, a more detailed workbook, work plan, budget, and timeline, a project area map, a draft partnership agreement, a managing partner resolution or letter of authorization, and letters of commitment from each partner. And now I will pass it to my colleague Sarah to tell you more about our technical assistance and application resources.
Awesome. Thank you, Blanca, for that wonderful overview. Hi, everyone. I'm excited to share more about the support we have available for our round 2 applicants. So Blanca mentioned this earlier, but in addition to today's webinar, we're hosting 4 application workshops later this month. We're going to start with a tribal communities workshop on July 18th. Followed by that, we'll have a rural communities workshop on July 20th. And then we'll host a general audience workshop on the 25th and conclude with a second tribals communities workshop on the 26th. And in these workshops, we'll be able to dive a bit deeper into program requirements and have greater discussion. We do encourage everyone to register in advance if they would like to attend, and we'll provide the link in the chat so you can do so. Next slide. So we also have a wonderful third-party technical assistance team on board that is providing direct application support. The TA team is comprised of 4 really awesome organizations. So Estelano Advisors, California Coalition for Rural Housing, the Institute for Local Government, and Better World Group. This team was also our TA providers for round 1, so they're very familiar with the RCC program. Next slide. So we have some specific technical assistance offerings for both the pre-proposal and the full proposal. For the pre-proposal, we have SGC and the TA team, we're partnering to host these weekly office hours via Zoom. These are on Wednesdays from 1 to 2 p.m. Like Blanca mentioned, these did start yesterday, and we'll continue to host them throughout the rest of the pre-proposal phase through September 6th, which is the day the pre-proposals are due. And these are a great space for you to just drop by, ask any questions you have, and run through any ideas to make sure they're in alignment with our program guidelines. And we'll also drop the link in the chat to the office hour registration. The TA team is providing a limited number of consultation service calls for unawarded round 1 applicants. And the priority for these consultation calls will be going to rural, unincorporated, and tribal communities. And we highly encourage anyone interested in having one of these one-on-one 30-minute calls with the TA team to connect with us sooner rather than later, since there is a limited amount that our TA team is able to offer. And then, of course, the TA team and SGC, RCC program staff were available for general support. So please email us questions, or if you're noticing any issues with our application material or the platform, you can flag those to us directly so we can help troubleshoot on a timely manner. And then after the pre-proposal phase, applicants will be paired with an individual TA provider to support applicants in the development of a full proposal. Unfortunately, it is unlikely that we can guarantee TA to all applicants. So depending on the volume of the pre-proposals received, full proposal assistance will be prioritized for applicants that have demonstrated readiness in their pre-proposal and applicants focusing on a high percentage of under-resourced communities and or tribal lands. And the full proposal support can include mapping support, work plan and budget development, application coordination, review of narrative responses, support with the collaborative partnership structure development, and interview prep if your application is invited to that finalist pool. We can go to the next slide. And so in addition to those TA services, our team has also prepared several application resources, and they're available on the RCC application page. I believe this page was already dropped in the chat, but we can also provide it again. So we have templates for some of the required application materials, and this includes the managing partner resolution, the tribal managing partner resolution, if led by a tribe, a letter of authorization, letter of commitments for those partners, and then a partnership agreement. Some of those mostly come into play in the full proposal, but it's helpful to look at those now as you're thinking through your pre-proposal. We also prepared a handful of guidance documents, including the application instructions, of course. We have a collective impact resource, which is helpful in thinking through key strategies and doing collaborative work with diverse organizations. We also have the project area guidance, and we are also going to be releasing the sample grant agreement, so you can be prepared of what this grant, those expectations are if awarded, and then also community compensation guidance to help think through some of what you may want to incorporate into your budget for the full proposal. So those are coming maybe closer to when the full proposal is released. And then we also have, one thing that's not on this list is our example activity table. So that is really helpful in thinking through how you want to approach the activities potentially. And then Blanca mentioned this earlier, we do have this great RCC mapping tool this round to make it easier to identify an eligible project area and provide that your map. And we'll be releasing mapping tool instructions along with a video tutorial in the coming weeks. So we can go on to the next slide. So I'm going to highlight our threshold and scoring criteria for you quickly. While these are for the full proposal, it is helpful to keep these in mind as you prepare your pre-proposal, given that the pre-proposal is intended to really be that stepping stone into developing your project. So here, the pre-proposal is a good time for our threshold criteria. It's a really good time to make sure that you're bringing on the right partners, ensuring everyone is an eligible applicant, and that the managing partner will be able to provide the proper documentation come time for the full proposal. You don't want to get to the full proposal stage and realize, oh, we have to shift things around or find a new managing partner. You want to make sure you're good to go in this pre-proposal phase. The pre-proposal is also an important time to make sure you determine an eligible project area. So please do come to our office hours and use the RCC mapping tool to help make sure your region is contiguous and that you're adhering to one of the 2 community of focus eligibility criteria. On the next slide, we will show the point breakdown for the full proposal components. So here I just want to flag these 3: project need and area, or project need and region, program objectives and activities, collaborative partnership structure. All of these components are important, but these 3 have the highest point value. And so just being really intentional about communicating your project need and region, how your project and the activities really advance the program objectives, and then who are your partners and why are all of these the right partners coming together for this opportunity. We will host a full proposal workshop in December. The exact date and time will be released soon, but we'll be able to dive deeper into the scoring criteria then. But with that, it looks like we really breezed through our presentation, and we can turn it over to Q&A. So hearing from everyone that's in this virtual space with us. Maybe we can still share the slides, or we can take those down. Okay. So I see some great questions already here. So regarding the contiguous regions, we're on the eastern. Oh, Ina, would you like to answer this one? Okay. We are on the eastern shoreline of San Francisco. Can we work with nonprofit organizations in Oakland and maybe Marin County or Marin City on regional water issues since we're connected by San Francisco Bay, or is that not considered contiguous? That is a great question. I would say that that could be considered contiguous, but I would like to defer to Ina on that one.
Sure, yeah, I can jump in. I was just saying because of my voice. Yeah, I think that would count as contiguous. It's really just that we don't want to have, areas, I guess, that are like very far away. But yeah, I think bodies of water would still count as being part of a contiguous boundary.
Sorry to make you speak when your voice is gone, but just wanted to make sure I was giving accurate information there. So there's a question here that the office hours are from 1 to 2 on Wednesday, but when I went to register, it looks like they're from 6 to 7. They should be from 1 to 2. So we'll make sure that the link on our website should be correct. So we'll get the right link in the chat in just a moment. But that is a funny thing.
The link is correct. It's just, I think the registration Zoom info has 6 p.m. But you can still register and assume it's 1 to 2, and then we'll change it in the back end to show 1 to 2 p.m.
So I'll turn this next question to Blanca. Can you explain how the pre-proposal technical assistance consultation service calls will be provided or prioritized?
Yes, right now we're only offering technical assistance consultation calls to round 1 applicants who submitted a pre-proposal or full proposal and are from under-resourced communities and our tribal applicants. So because we have a limited amount of technical assistance available, we do have an intake form where you can submit a form and we can get in touch with you to see if you are eligible. I can link that in the chat shortly. However, we are prioritizing people who submitted a pre-proposal or full proposal. And I'll drop that in the chat.
So I'm seeing a few different questions in the chat around the project area eligibility. Nancy, would you actually be able to take us back to those slides? They'll be helpful for us as we answer those questions. Unfortunately, to the question around a Caltrans district being a partner in the grant, you'd be unable to be a funded partner because we are unable to give grant funds to a state entity. But in what's different from round one, or a lot of round one applicants included unfunded partners that the collaborative would leverage or have support their work. And so in the application, there's now a clear place where you can include what we're calling supporters. And so these are entities that are doing critical work to the region and are helpful in the collaborative's work, but wouldn't be reflected in the budget. And so you could include a Caltrans district as a supporter, so an unfunded partner, and explain their connection to the collaborative's work. But I will hand it to Blanca to go over the project area requirements.
Thank you. And I'm going to turn off my video just because my internet is a little bit unstable. But the project area requirements, so this round, we are making it so that we increased our under-resourced threshold from 50% to 75%. However, if you are a tribal applicant and your communities of focus are based in tribal lands, as long as there's 50% of those communities of focus, you should have an additional 25% that are under-resourced in order to make up for that 75%. And then for the region project area requirements, we're requiring, again, just a region that makes sense, and you would have to submit a justification if you're not using one of our layers on the mapping tool. But as long as it's not, from North State all the way down to the border, southern border region, and it has clearly defined boundaries, that should be eligible. Is there anything you would like to add to that, Sarah or Ina?
Yeah, maybe Nancy, if you can take us back one slide to the region slide. So there's a question in the chat. This is just a sample of what a region could be. Projects can be across the state. We don't want limiting proposals from, this was just a sample for what a project area could look like. And in our mapping tool, we do offer some sample regions that we think are common ways that folks organize their work around. So there are still the option to organize on counties as was required in round one. We also include the boundaries for the air districts, MPOs, but you're also free to make your own boundary based off of these considerations that Blanca just shared with us. And then switching back to the Q&A box. Yes, these Q&A answers will be shared in addition to the recording. We're working on getting a frequently asked questions page or FAQ page on our website. So let's see, it seems like in round one, the projects awarded were pretty large collaboratives. Is a smaller collaborative eligible and competitive, or can you speak to more collaborative size and who should be included in a collaborative partnership? So yes, the program really does want to fund a diverse set of collaboratives, and that is why we instituted the funding tracks. And so smaller collaboratives than what we awarded in round one are eligible and competitive for the program. We're hoping that the two funding tracks can help address any fears around maybe being a smaller collaborative and applying for the program. This next question, around the point, are local governments / or county public health entities considered unfunded partners? No. So local government agencies are eligible. It's just that state government agencies are not eligible for grant funds. So one of our listed eligible applicants, and maybe Nancy, we can go back to the eligible applicant slide at the beginning. It shows we have really broad eligibility, applicant eligibility requirements for the program. And so California Native American tribes, community-based organizations, and nonprofit local public agencies. And in one of the first few pages of the RCC guidelines, we spell out what local public agencies or local government agencies entails. And so there's a pretty expansive list. So we definitely would love to see local governments apply. And then small businesses, and then other organizations with a history of providing community-based outreach and technical assistance. This one's really broad, but it allows applicants to kind of determine who maybe isn't represented within these first four applicant types that are playing a really critical TA or outreach role in their communities and would like to be included as a partner. Let's see here. Is there a minimum size for a project area? So we do not have a limit on the region. We would highly encourage folks to check out our project area guidance, because we offer some additional considerations to approaching your project area, just to make sure that you are, not making too large of an area to where your work plan is maybe unfeasible. But we do have some criteria around the communities of focus. You need to serve a minimum of 2 communities of focus. And a community of focus could be a single census tract or tribal area, or it can be a cluster of census tracts and tribal areas. It's really up to you to determine what your communities of focus look like, as long as your collaborative is serving 2 communities of focus in your broader region. Okay. I'm seeing this question in the chat. Are there any statistics on P-win percentages from the previous grants or pre-proposals? To clarify, could also be statistics on those who move on from pre-proposal to full proposal stage. So I think last year, the pre-proposal was not required to submit a full proposal, and we didn't score the pre-proposals. We just provided feedback, and it was up to the applicant to decide if they wanted to move forward with the pre-proposal or not. And we did have folks who submitted a full proposal that did not submit a pre-proposal. Our first round was competitive. We did ultimately have 45 full proposals submitted, and we were only able to award 6. But I believe we do have some more stats or information on our website that I can pull up and drop in the chat around our round 1 submissions. So I'll look for that and maybe turn it to Blanca to field any more questions coming in.
Thanks, Sarah. I don't see any more questions in the chat, but if you would like us to go to any specific slide in the presentation, feel free to drop it in the chat or use the Q&A portion as well.
We also have a question that I answered written, but we could also discuss it a little bit more around the limitation for awards with regard to counties that have already been awarded to RCC. If you look in the answered questions, maybe just add a little bit more context there.
Yes. Is that the question? from?
It's from Felicia Federico.
Let me turn off my video because I thought my internet was a little bit more stable to handle Zoom, but it's not.
I can maybe just add a little bit more context on this question because I think I included in the response to this question the language from our guidelines about this. And you can look at the profiles that we have up on our website to see who we funded previously. One thing that I really just want to emphasize is that we'll still have the top 4 scoring applications out of likely between like 6 and I think we'll probably have funding for like between 6 or 7 applications this round. And so there still is definitely an opportunity for folks who are, applying from a region that's already gotten funding. You could still definitely get funded by being one of those top scoring applications. We do just have this additional provision so that we can be able to bring in more geographic equity related to the program. And again, sorry for my voice. It's really bad timing for our webinars.
No, thank you, Ina. I saw the question now, but yeah, we have another one. Can you give some guidance on the level of specificity you want to see for the grant activities in the pre-proposal? That's a great question. So in the pre-proposal, you'll have a link to download a workbook and the work plan, and that will give you space to write in the task and subtasks that you're going to be working on. Right now, for the pre-proposal, we would encourage you all to just put as much thought as you can around which activities are going to, or which tasks are going to address the required activities, and then put thought into which partners are going to be involved in doing them. But we won't score them, of course. In the full proposal, we'll definitely want to see more thought around how those proposed tasks and subtasks are meeting the required and optional activities, but are also representative of the program objectives and reflective of your program area, project area, and project need. Is there anything else you'd like to add to that, Sarah? Okay.
No, I thought that was great.
Okay. So now we have a question. Are matching funds required? If not, are they encouraged? They're not required. Definitely encouraged, but definitely, yeah, not required. I don't have anything else to add to that, though.
Yeah, I would say they're, you're not scored negatively if you don't have matching funds at all. There's no requirement. It's not in our scoring at all. This is really much a capacity building program to help folks do that upstream coordination, relationship building, and planning needed, and don't want folks to stress out about match funds. Can you give 1 or 2 examples of projects that you anticipate supporting? I would check out the round 1 grantee profiles to see. So definitely wanting to fund really thoughtful capacity building and like technical assistance work, community engagement work within your communities, and really seeing from applicants why that work is so needed in their region and in their specific communities of focus to advance their respective climate mitigation, adaptation, and resilience goals. We recognize that there's so many different ways to approach this work, and California is such a diverse state, so don't want to put any specific project like ideas in anyone's head, because we really want to see what ideas come forward from your needs and climate priorities. is there a maximum number of communities of focus, or about how many number or range do you recommend? We do not include a maximum number of communities of focus. We just have that minimum, but we do offer some additional guidance in thinking through selecting your number of communities of focus within our project area guidance. But it's really hard to give a number or range just because we don't know the context of an application and the size of their region, and really wanting to see in the work plan, like why you selected the communities of focus that you did, how your collaborative has the ability to do that robust capacity building work in all of the communities of focus that you do select. Blanca, did you want to add to that?
That was great. I would think I would just say, like you said, we're looking for like feasible proposed communities of focus, like where applicants are describing the relationships that have been built there, or if there's a pathway to build relationships and do that place-based work. So as long as it makes sense for the capacity of the collaborative and how they're going to build capacity within those communities, that would be some guidance. But yeah, Sarah's answer, that was good. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for the addition. So can we go back to the slide with the required activities? Yes, I think you go backwards, Nancy. There we go. So these are actually the eligible activity types. And then within the guidelines, there's a few sub bullets for each of these that explains what those activities actually are. And so they're intentionally a bit broad, and applicants are then responsible for tailoring them to their specific context and explaining in their narrative and in their work plan what those looks like. And so I think, for example, around identifying priorities, maybe an activity is doing like robust community engagement, and then you would explain what your community engagement looks like, how you're structuring that community engagement. So I hope that is helpful. I know there wasn't like a specific question related to the activity slide. You just wanted us to go back there. But if there are any specific questions on the eligible activities, happy to answer them, but wanted to offer that context that these are broader categories of activities, and the guidelines offer more information. And I would encourage you all to look at our example activity tables that we have that breaks it down from kind of the broad category type to some sample like subtasks. Is there a min or max amount of partners allowed? So there is a minimum of 4 partners need to be in your collaborative, but we do not have a max. Check the chat.
To answer Olivia's question, I think Leadership Council already did have a consultation call with tape providers. So I think, yeah, thank you. And consultation call links and emails were sent earlier in the spring, but your TA provider should have also contacted you. If you want to have a consultation call and you're around one awardee, please shoot us an email at case@sgc.ca.gov. I was going to link the intake form, but also if don't want it to be their confusion, if people are going to fill out the intake form and they might not be around one applicant. So we just want to make that more streamlined for the TA providers, but we'll respond to you as soon as we can if you email us, and we can send you that email or that intake form.
I realized I was on mute. These have been really great questions so far. So thank you so much for asking these. Anything else coming up for folks? What is the indirect rate allowed? Indirect cost rate is up to 30%. Oh, great question. Is this a reimbursement-based grant or will advances be made available? So it's both. So we are eligible or have authority to provide advance pay for the RCC program. It is only up to 25% of the total grant award, and that can be distributed all at once in one chunk or in smaller installments. And so grantees will work with SGC to kind of determine how they want to utilize the advanced pay option. And then the rest of the grant would be given on a reimbursement basis. And we're able to offer either monthly or quarterly reimbursement. Please confirm that the chat will be included in the materials to which, so we might not be able to download the chat. I'm not sure with the recording if the chat automatically saves, but recently some state agencies, our safety feature, we can no longer download chat. Kind of funny. So I can't guarantee that, but we'll try. That is a great question, Olivia. So there could be potential for a collaborative to go above that 25% advance pay. It's we worked with DOF to include that. So SGC has a broader advance payment pilot for many of our grant programs, and there's that language in there. And that we wanted our program to align with that. So I think it really depends on situations that arise, but one example could be if there's a really extreme weather event or disaster that is impacting cash flow or something like COVID-19 pandemic, some of those unforeseeable issues that rise up and might make it challenging, and if having an advance that goes above that 25%, that will help continue the momentum of the RCC project, we'll be able to work with grantees in those situations. So there could be other situations that arise where we could accommodate. I'm just not sure what those might be. We have 10 more minutes, and so our team can stay on the line as folks have more questions.
One thing I did want to offer is we did get a question, and I feel like a few questions around whether we'll be weeding folks out through the pre-proposal process or like rejecting folks. And I want to make sure it's clear we won't be like rejecting anyone through the pre-proposal process, in the sense that folks are welcome to apply for the full proposal if they have submitted a pre-proposal, though pre-proposal is required in this round. But we do have a limited amount of technical assistance, and we'll be providing written feedback to folks where we'll be kind of recommending that they are ready to move forward, or that, we may not recommend that they move forward at that time, because we also want to make sure that folks are set up with the right funding opportunities and aren't wasting time on an application that may not make sense. So that's really the way the pre-proposal process will work. We're really not scoring and not rejecting folks, but just giving feedback and then using it to connect folks who are ready to apply in this round to technical assistance.
Yeah, thank you so much for making that very clear, Ina. I think that's really important. Main chat. Oh, this is also a really great question. Does capacity grant funding need to be used for planning for SGC grants only, or can they be used to prepare applications for other climate-related grants? This is for more than SGC. It can be for whatever grant opportunities align with your region and your communities of focus priorities. So this is really supposed to be a springboard, hopefully, to all sorts of funding, especially or in addition to the federal dollars that are coming down. That's a really good question. Yes, I might follow up via email because I can't remember the exact legislation right now, if that's okay. Let me see.
We have a comment or a question from Holly in the Q&A. If our county has received funding for round 1, but we have a different collaborative, are we able to apply for round 2? Yes. Yeah, you can definitely use like the same project area, and if it's like a different collaborative, you can, and it wasn't awarded, you can definitely like use some of the material that you used to apply for round 1 to shape your round 2 application.
And related to the round 2 funding, this funding was allocated previously, I believe, Assembly Bill 170 or the climate package from a few years ago. So we got both. It was in the same package that awarded round 1 and round 2 funds. I think we hyperlink or reference our funding source in our guidelines. I am not familiar with that in the 2023 budget. Ina, are you familiar with that? Sorry to make you talk. Oh, you're muted.
Didn't work when I clicked on. Okay, yeah. So essentially, we received funding for round 2 at the same time that we received funding for round 1, but it was set for this year, so it was a little bit complicated in that way. I think it did actually. Yeah, it's a good question around if it came from the 2022 budget or the 2023 budget, but essentially as a part of that, or I'm sorry, 2021 or 2022, it came all together for us as a part of the same budget, but across multiple years. And I also found for the advanced pay authorizing statute, it's AB 156. So just drop that in the chat here.
Awesome. Thank you for finding that. Awesome. I'm seeing folks starting to hop off, so just wanted to thank everyone for participating today, and we hope to see you in some of our application workshops or office hours or correspond via email. I'm glad it's been helpful seeing those comments come through in the chat. Okay, team. Should we close the webinar then? It seems like no more questions are coming through. Okay. Bye, everyone.